check out our new merch store at www.ShotOfFactsPodcast.com, where you can find our merch with shirts dedicated to each episode you love. Check it out today and support a Shot of Facts merch. Welcome to A Shot of Facts. This is your girl, Deja Renee, and this episode is a shot of Hooded with Dr. Malika Grayson. So Dr. Grayson is a STEM speaker, author, and engineer who has a PhD in mechanical engineering from Cornell University, where she became the second Black woman in Cornell's history and the first Black American to receive a PhD in mechanical engineering, which is ridiculous that we are still having first Black people in 2020, but nonetheless, among Dr. Grayson's educational achievements, she is a STEM advocate and a mentor for minority women and minority women overall who pursue advanced degrees. And she is the author of Hooded, which is a Black girl's guide to the PhD. So, Dr. Grayson, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me. Really excited, and thank you for that great intro.
No
It's great to be here, and I can't wait to have a conversation to talk about the Shot of Facts with Hooded.
Yes, a shot of facts with Hooded. Yes, you see, I love how that combines together. But my first question for you, since you are the first Black woman or second Black woman, first Black American to receive a PhD in mechanical engineering, I wanted to ask, what was your steps or your process of obtaining that degree, or how was it overall?
So, being one of few or one of one, it's never easy, right? It's definitely a struggle. When I got into my graduate program at Cornell, there was nobody who looked like me in my cohort, right, in the PhD program. And for me, especially the first year, it was really difficult to transition. It was really difficult to navigate. But what I found was that because it was so difficult for me, it affected the way I did my work. It affected the way I performed in classes. And of course, it would have affected the way I did my research. But what I had to do was try to take a step back. And one of the classes that I went to during my second year, I actually met someone who looked like me, and she was a master's student, and she introduced me to NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, and that group that was on campus. And so I was able to build a tribe. So I would say that it was very difficult, and that transition was challenging. But because I had that tribe, I was able to get through, some of the tough parts. And that doesn't negate from the trauma. It doesn't negate from the experiences that you go through as a woman of color, as a Black woman, PhD student or graduate student. But it definitely helps alleviate some of that, because now you have people that you could go to, right? You have people who probably understand or who will understand exactly what you're going through.
Right. And honestly, so I have a master's in geospatial sciences, and I can really say that a lot of times that I feel like people underestimated my knowledge in my field. And I feel like that's something that a lot of Black women in STEM particularly go through. So what would be some advice that you would give to Black women who recently obtained their degrees or currently in a study now, who are doing internships, for example, or things of that sort, who feel like they're being undermined by their counterparts?
I would say own your knowledge, because one of the things that I even go through, even up to today or maybe yesterday, I was on a call and somebody said, "Oh, you have a PhD, right?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And that is my knowledge and the years of work and the years of research that I put in. That's often overlooked, right? But it's often overlooked too, because I sometimes downplay it. If somebody says that, sometimes I laugh it off. "Oh, no, it's okay, y'all. Don't call me that." I definitely feel awkward at times. And I had to learn to embrace it. I had to learn to embrace the fact that I have gone through these steps. I've gone through the work to be who I am, right? To gain that knowledge. And we need to share that knowledge. And that comes with being more confident in yourself, being more confident in the things that you know. So my advice would be, when you're in those rooms, speak up. Because part of it is that we don't share what we know, right? We think, okay, well, maybe somebody will say it, or nobody wants to hear from me, or I have that imposter syndrome. And when you don't share those gems, then people will never know what you know, right? You have to be able to open up and let people know what you're thinking, because that's the only way people are going to respect you. So I would say definitely be open, be confident, and practice. It takes practice. I didn't do it overnight. It took me, I think, in my first 6 months of my job, in my first year, I probably didn't even speak. I would go to meetings and come on, right? And eventually I learned to be more open. I learned to question people. I learned to challenge people and the things that they say. And it's not us being, because oftentimes when we say something, people, oh, angry Black woman, oh, she's saying something, oh, she doesn't belong here. And what she doesn't know what she's talking about either, because she doesn't fit in, she doesn't look the part, she's Black, she's young. So you're going to get all those issues, you're going to get all that feedback, all that pushback. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's just how the world works, unfortunately. And we can't be deterred by that. We just have to continue to challenge those who are in charge, challenge those who you're in the room with, so that they listen. And over time, I've started to get that respect.
Honestly, you hit the nail on when you said that. When I first started, I did not want to cause any type of conflict. I just wanted to do my work, be quiet, and go home.
Exactly.
It's the whole mindset of like the angry Black woman, It's like, I don't want to be that person. But now I'm like, okay, yeah, you're wrong. And I'm going to show you why, because I done the analysis and all that. So yeah, it takes time. And I think it's really with societal pressures and standards, like the angry Black woman stereotype, as to why we feel that we can't speak up or show our best. Not really show our best talent, but really put ourselves out there when it comes to working in really STEM fields or really white male-based fields, especially as a Black woman. But one of my other questions I want to ask you is, overall, why do you think Black people should be more involved in STEM? Or overall, why should Black people get more involved in STEM?
I think for us, STEM is everywhere. STEM is everywhere we look. STEM is everywhere when we think of the things we have in our households, just in our everyday life. When you think of, even when you pick up your phone, right? That's technology. Technology is everywhere. And technology is on the cusp of exploding even more than it has before. And now is the time for us to get involved. Now is the time for us to create the spaces that we need to be in. And now is the time for us to take a seat at the table. And we can't take a seat at the table if we don't take the risk to be in those industries, if we don't take the risk to be in those spaces, right? And it is hard as a person of color, as Black people, to be in those STEM spaces, because there hardly anybody who looks like you. When you look at the leadership in some of these top technology companies, you're like, okay, where are people at? Who's your VP? What does your VP look like? And now more than ever, especially me, even within my own organization where I work, I really assess and I take a look at, okay, what does my org chart look like? What does my leadership chart look like? And I realize there is a lack of representation, but we can't complain about a lack of representation if we don't even try to make the strides to be in the space. So that's one of the things I have tried to do, continue to be on a technical path so that I can continue to be in a space, so that I can help create a pipeline for other people who are interested in STEM, because sometimes people aren't interested in STEM, or they aren't interested in pursuing STEM anymore because they're discouraged. So it doesn't just start from us now that we're adults and we're like, okay, we don't want to go into STEM. It starts from that little girl or that little boy who's in that class, and there's nobody that looks like them who is interested in STEM, right? Or children tease them because they're interested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they feel discouraged. And then it goes on to middle school and high school. And then eventually they get into college and they're in their undergraduate class, and they're the only person that looks like them in a class of 75 people or 60 people. So they feel discouraged. Then they look at their professors and they feel as if, I have nobody who looks like me who could be a mentor. So they decide, I'm going to change courses. Or they go to graduate school and they see that there's nobody that looks like them. And it's like a cycle. And we have to break that cycle. And we have to start encouraging young people from an early age so that they can pursue them. So that when we look at these org charts, when we look at the people creating the technology, when we look at the people who are running these programs, when we look at the people who are just really making an impact when it comes to our everyday life, we see people who look like us, we see representation. And it's not going to be done overnight, nothing ever is, but we have to start somewhere. And we do it so others after us aren't going to get that challenge when it comes to their time.
Yeah, I definitely can agree. Honestly, going through school, I guess I was a nerd, I guess. But I always did like technology in some way, and that was not the cool thing, quote unquote. But also when I think back on school or internships, I met some non-minority, non-Black people who, had coding classes since they were in middle school, and they've been doing this for years now. And it's like they already start at an advantage, and that's just so
Right.
unfair,
They get the
especially going.
opportunity, right? They get the
Mhm.
opportunity, and that's the when we talk about that systemic racism or something that's working against us, because we have that going on, and then you have the systematic one, the systematic racism. So the system is working against us, and then you have these situations in general where it works against us because either they live in a place where the schools are better or the programs are better, so they get exposure to opportunities. Or they were afforded the opportunity to go to a summer camp. And because all those things were afforded to them, they were able to get that internship, and they were able to feel confident in themselves when they do those coding classes. Whereas, you or someone else, they didn't get that opportunity. So you're already going into it with a disadvantage, and you feel as if I don't even want to do the work to get to that end point. I'm just going to do something else. But somebody has to start it, right? Somebody has to be that person. Let me be the first, or let me be a trailblazer. So we need more trailblazers, which is hard. Like that's why it's called trailblazers, because it's not easy.
Right. So how do you start mentorship, or how do you well either start or seek mentorship as a person who is looking into get into STEM?
How do I start mentorship?
Or yes, or how do you my main question is mainly towards the people who want to be mentored into getting to STEM, and how
I
can you as a person who's in it, I guess,
Yeah,
have an avenue to mentor people?
easy. Start by sharing your story. People think that to be a mentor, you have to have all these things figured out, right? You have to have this huge presentation, and I don't have time to go speak, or I don't have time to dedicate to this summer camp. Sometimes it's as easy as, hi, can I talk to your class about what I do during my day? What does my day to day look like? Sometimes I've had conversations all of 10 minutes, and that makes a difference, right? I've had conversations with people as young as 5 years and as old as my peers or older than me. And it's really about trying to find a space that's comfortable for you at first. And with time and with more exposure, then of course you'll feel more comfortable getting more involved and being a mentor. But start closest to you. Start by trying to identify somebody that you think has the potential to go into STEM or feels like they want to learn more about STEM, and then just tell them more about what you do and your journey through STEM, because people get encouraged through our journey. If they know that somebody was able to do it and they hear the challenges that someone has had, then they're more inclined to do it and they feel encouraged, right? They're like, okay, Deja did it, so I could definitely do it. And I want to be like Deja when I grow up, because she went through all these things and now look at her. She is this person, she has this master's degree and she has this great job, and it's not impossible. And all people see, of course, is Deja with a master's or someone else or me, and if they feel as if it's impossible, and it's
Right.
not, because we don't share our stories enough and we don't reach back to just tell that person who maybe even lives down the hall, let me tell you about who I am, or let's chat.
I definitely think I could work on that more
It's
myself.
hard,
I'm
it takes
calling myself
time.
out. I'm
Yeah,
calling
and
myself out.
yeah,
I
it
could
takes
definitely.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not an extrovert by any way. I like to be in my little bubble and stuff, and but I've tried to be more involved by working through my job through their corporate citizenship channels and talking to high school students, or even going to go into conferences like NESB, for example. That's one way I found, because I could help with recruitment and retention when it comes to one part. And then I could also give back by talking about some of my experiences that I went through, like finding a tribe, or what it means to have a mentor, a sponsor, or what it means to navigate graduate school as a person of color.
All right. So let's gear over around the conversation and talk about your book, Hooded. So, what is Hooded about? What was your inspiration? And what do you expect the outcome from this book?
Yeah. So Hooded was really born through my experiences from graduate school, right? Some of those really hard experiences as well as really amazing experiences. It was born through my blog, Black Girl's Guide to Graduate School, that I started a few months after I graduated. And that blog was started because I wanted to share snippets of my journey to help others. And then as the years went on, I realized that there were so many stories that I wanted to tell, and I just didn't know how to tell it. And one day I was chatting with a friend, and he mentioned to me, and I gave him one of the poems that I wrote, which is actually in Hooded. And he said, you know, this is a great poem. You should actually write more of this. And I started writing, and I would pick up a chapter, write about it, then I'll put it down for months, because I'll feel as if, okay, nobody cares about this story. Nobody cares about your everyday life in graduate school. Then I would do some type of mentorship, or I would review somebody's statement, because I review personal statements for free. And I will feel motivated just through that experience and through that interaction with them. And then I'll pick it up again. And then I'll be like, okay, this is too much or too emotional, or I have to think about, you know, you have to really relive what you've been through. And then I'll put it down again for months. So through that up, down, eventually that was the journey through Hooded. And eventually this year, I was able to finish it. So Hooded is about just the emotional stuff that I went through during graduate school. I talk about each year that I went through graduate school. I talk about year 1 through year 5. So you get it from as soon as I went in and had my first experience driving on the highway to upstate New York to the very last day of me walking on the stage. You get everything. So that is what it's about. And I think the next thing you asked me was, what was the second question?
What was the inspiration? Well, overall, I know it's from your experience, but was there any
Right.
other inspiration that led you to write the book at all?
Yeah, so it was not just from my experience, but also because I saw a need for it. I feel as if there are so many people, and it really started because of when I realized how appreciative people were that I was reading their personal statements for free and reviewing it for free. And one of the things people say, oh, I wish I had more of this, or I wish I had somebody I could look up to. I wish I had a mentor. And you'd hear those things, right? And I remember I said to myself, I wish I had somebody who went through all these things I went through, who would be able to tell me what I'm feeling is okay, right? Validate my feelings, because I felt as if I wasn't allowed to feel that way, that I was supposed to succeed all the time, that I was supposed to be great, because everybody expects us to be great. You can't be not great. And I said, okay, there is really a need for this, and people need to feel like it's okay to feel that way. And I was about to curse, so I didn't want to do that. But it's okay to feel like shit, basically, right? You're not alone in that shitty feeling.
Oh, yeah, grad school was, I can say honestly, my experience, it was traumatizing.
Exactly. And nobody shares their traumatizing experience. I definitely didn't want to, but I thought so many people just observing and interacting with all these people just through mentorship and the opportunities that I get, I said, okay, if not for me, do it for somebody who is literally on the cusp of leaving and they need that extra encouragement and push to stay. And that was the other motivation behind it.
So my last question was, what was your outlook that you expect from the readers reading this and gaining the information in the book?
Well, for me, I hope that people really understand, as I said, it's about not just validating somebody's feelings and letting them know that they're not alone, because they're not alone. There are a tribe of people who are out there in the world who are going through this individually. We just haven't found each other yet. The other thing is I make sure I put some tips so that it's not just about me writing in my journal of Hooded per se, but I want you to learn these lessons. So one of the lessons I talk about is that living on a grad school budget is hard. And I talk about some of my budgeting woes and some of the tips. I give them some tips, like a simple tip of one of the things I wish I had done was start saving from early on, maybe even $20 a week, so that at the end of graduation, I could have just, I'm out, right? And I didn't give myself that opportunity to celebrate. I was able to do it a year later, but something that simple could have changed, just how I experienced that last month. And I talk about little tips like that and what tools you can use to basically improve some of the situations that you go through year after year, depending on the year. So depending on the situation, depending on the year, I have a different tip. So that's what I hope really people get out of it, apart from, of course, the feeling of I'm not alone. Oh, let me take some of these lessons. And it's been amazing to see some of the conversations that have already started. It's only been a week and already I've had people direct message me and quote some of their favorite quotes from the book, where I, talk about some of my feelings of being vulnerable, where I talk about mental health. And it's really amazing to see what's resonating with people and just how some of those experiences are also resonating with their experiences. So it's like parallel.
Yeah, I definitely think this book is great for anyone who is in college, who's thinking about graduate school, who was in it. Everybody, please support Hooded. Please get it. Please read it. It's out now. It's been out for a week.
It is. It is out now. It's been out for a week. It's, been on the bestseller for Amazon, which is good. It's still #1 new release, which is amazing.
And can people still get the autographed copies of it?
They can. They can get the autographed copies on my website, malikagrayson.com. I only have a few left, so people need to get it soon.
Okay. Well, overall, I want to thank you for coming on A Shot of Facts to talk about your experience on your journey to getting your PhD and also Hooded. But my last question to you is, do you have any last words of advice, recommendation, or encouragements for the listeners out there?
For sure. I want to tell people, and it's fun because me and my mom, we talk about this a lot, about letting your passion fuel you. And once you figure out what you're passionate about, then nothing feels like work, right? And while all of us, we can't find our passion right away, or we feel as if my passion can't pay my bills right now, right? Because my passion certainly can't right now, but my passion has really made me feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. So I want people to really think about what you're passionate about and what you want to do, what you enjoy, because once you do that, then it's going to feel easier when you go through some of these challenges, when you go through these situations. Because when you're feeling challenged, when you're doing your passion, then it doesn't feel so much like a challenge and a failure. It just feels like, you know what, I love this and I can't wait to see how I overcome this challenge.
Definitely, definitely. And where can we find you? Social media, website, or anything?
Social media and websites and LinkedIn. So social media, my Instagram is Dr. Malika Grayson, Dr. Malika Grayson. My Twitter is BGG. So Black Girls Guide 2, the number 2, grad school. And then my LinkedIn, Malika Grayson, you just, look me up on LinkedIn and it's there. And my website, of course, malikagrayson.com.
Okay, and I'll make sure to add all of that in the show notes for our listeners and myself to keep up with you for the next Hooded 2 and put it into existence.
Put it in the universe.
Yes, but I am so excited to get my copy because I ordered mine. Did you guys do it already? Okay, I'm doing a call to action. Order it now. Get the autographed copy before it's over with. And
before it's sold out, get it now.
Before it's sold out. Get it now.
Special editions.
Yeah, and support. And overall, I just want to thank you again for coming out to the show.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. Thanks, everyone.
And with that being said, I will talk to you later.
Okay.